Welcome to the 2020 Kemin General Awareness Safety Refresher. This training was designed to refresh all Kemin employees on all company safety policies. The topics covered this year will be the general company safety rules, the emergency action plan, incident reporting, bloodborne pathogen awareness, lockout tagout awareness, confined space entry, spill response and reporting, electrical safety, non-production shipping, security, fire extinguisher, and the COVID-19 response. First, we will discuss the general company safety rules. At Kemin, we have two different types of safety rules. We have cardinal safety rules and general safety rules. Cardinal safety rules are rules that are put in place to protect employees and the company from harm. Any infractions must be referred to the organization's management, EHS, and/or human resources for immediate corrective action according to the Kemin HR policies. General safety rules have been put into place to help assure a safe working environment. Failure to comply may result in referral for corrective action. Cardinal safety rules include failure to comply with lockout-tagout procedures, failure to comply with confined space procedures, engaging in unauthorized electrical work, operating industrial powered equipment without authorization, violation of fall protection requirements, or unauthorized entry into any excavation over 6 feet, failure to comply with hot work requirements, intentionally discharging an unauthorized hazardous substance to the ground or water of the United States, or adding any hazardous waste to landfill waste, unauthorized disabling of any emergency alarm, unauthorized disabling or impairment of any fire control system, interfering with emergency services on scene, introducing an ignition source, including lit tobacco products, into an area where flammable vapors may be present, initiating clearly aggressive acts or credible threats of aggression, operating a machine or piece of equipment without safety guards in place, and improperly shipping hazardous materials. And now, the general safety rules. Never operate any machine or equipment unless you are authorized and trained to do so. Do not operate defective equipment. Do not use broken hand tools. Report them to your supervisor immediately. Obtain full instructions from your supervisor or employee designated by a supervisor to train before operating a machine in which you are unfamiliar. Do not operate any machine or equipment at unsafe speeds. Shut off equipment which is not in use. Never start on any hazardous job without being completely familiar with the safety techniques. Check with your supervisor if in doubt. Make sure all safety guards are in place and properly adjusted before operating any machine. Wear all protective garments and equipment necessary to be safe on the job. Wear proper leather or rubber shoes. Sandals or other open-toed, thin-soled shoes or shoes with porous material are prohibited outside of the office areas. Do not wear loose, flowing clothing or unconfined long hair while operating moving machinery. Never repair or adjust any machine or equipment unless you are authorized to do so. Put tools and equipment away when they are not in use. Do not lift items that are too bulky or too heavy to be handled by one person. Ask for help. Keep all aisles, stairways, and exit paths clear. Do not place equipment and materials so as to block emergency exit routes, fireboxes, sprinkler shutoffs, machine or electrical control panels, or fire extinguishers. Stack all materials neatly and make sure piles are stable. Keep your work area, machinery, and all Kemin Industries facilities in which you use clean and neat. Do not participate in horseplay. Do not run on Kemin property. An exception may be made for an approved Kemin activity. Forklift operators must safeguard other workers at all times. Workers must show courtesy to forklift operators. Desks, storage cabinets, and other storage devices should have drawers closed when not in use to prevent tripping hazards. Extension cords may be used temporarily, less than 30 days, and should be placed so that they are flush on the ground at all times. Use of multiple extension cords or power strips in a series is prohibited. Never overload electrical outlets. Frayed or damaged electrical cords must be removed from service immediately upon discovery. Burned out light bulbs should be replaced immediately. Never take chances. If you're unsure, you're unsafe. And always ask for help. Let good common sense be your guide. Next, we will discuss Kemin's Emergency Action Plan. In the event of a fire, remember to remain calm. If one is available, pull the alarm pull station. From a safe location, dial 8911 immediately. Give them your location, your name, and any other pertinent information about the incident. For all other emergencies, call 8911 if the emergency is life-threatening. For non-threatening emergencies, notify the supervisor within your work area. Then contact the EHS department if there are any questions about how to handle a situation. People are always more important than products or equipment. Never attempt to fight a fire unless you are properly trained, you are reasonably certain you can contain it, the fire has not spread beyond its originally affected area, and if the fire requires the use of more than one fire extinguisher, 8911 must be called. For an ammonia release, if you smell ammonia, notify your supervisor immediately. For an ammonia leak, we will shelter in place as that is preferable to evacuation. If you're outdoors, make note of the wind direction and move upwind of the ammonia release, and wait for direction from the EHS department or a designee. For all evacuations, evacuate to the assembly area immediately and don't leave until you are released. Make sure to go directly to the assembly area so you can be counted. Note: never lock doors when evacuating. You may trap other evacuees. For visitors and contractors, escorts and project managers are responsible for visitors and contractors and must brief them on the emergency procedures before they enter the process buildings. Next, we will talk about incident reporting. There are two types of incident reports at Kemin. First, on the left-hand side, is the Safety Awareness Report. Those will be turned in for any near misses or safety suggestions that you might have. We want to have many of these turned in to avoid having the form on the right turned in for any incident or illness that happens on site. If you have any questions on how to fill out one of these forms, please reach out to your supervisor or an EHS representative. If we do have an injury or illness on site, assess the injury or illness and seek medical attention immediately if necessary. If the injury or illness happens while you're at work, employees experiencing an injury or illness should not drive themselves to seek medical attention. A supervisor or member of EHS will accompany them to the doctor or hospital. All injuries and illnesses must be reported immediately to your supervisor or another member of management. Fill out an incident report form and send it to the EHS department before returning to work. All medical records must be given to a member of EHS as soon as the employee returns from the clinic or hospital. If you are experiencing a non-occupational injury that compromises your ability to do your job at Kemin, please notify your manager or the EHS department. Restrictions, work-related or non-work-related, need to be reviewed with safety and your supervisor before starting work. Follow all doctor's restrictions, work-related or non-work-related. You may need clearance from the Kemin medical specialist before returning to work. You have the right to access your employee medical records. You may request them by contacting your HR representative or the EHS department. This is a copy of the emergency call list. This list is located on every first aid cabinet on campus. It is also located in digital form on the Kemination website. Note that all EHS department numbers are at the top. Please call us for any questions you may have. If your call goes unanswered, and it is an emergency, please call us twice in a row to indicate to us that the call is an emergency. Next, we will discuss bloodborne pathogens. If you see someone else's blood or bodily fluids, don't touch. You can help, though, by ensuring that the area is clearly marked, by contacting your supervisor, and by notifying properly trained personnel to respond to cleanup. All first aid and safety personnel are trained. If you do happen to come into contact with someone else's bodily fluids, first stop what you are doing, Second, wash the affected area with soap and water if appropriate. Make sure to wash with antibacterial soap. And then third, report the incident to your supervisor or the EHS department. Next, we will discuss lockout tagout. Lockout tagout prevents any injuries to employees during the maintenance, repair, inspection, or adjustment of machines or equipment. All energy sources that are used, stored, or produced by the equipment are controlled by lockout tagout. At Kemin, we recognize two different types of employees: an authorized employee, who is trained to properly lock or tag out machines to perform the servicing or maintenance, and affected employees, who are employees who will be affected when the equipment is being serviced or maintained. Do not perform any lockout tasks until you have received this additional training. Confined space entry. To be a confined space must be large enough and configured that a body can enter it. There must be a potential hazard. There must be a limited means for entry and exit, and it must not be designed for human occupancy. There are two different types of confined spaces. Permit required confined spaces have one or more of the following. They contain or have the potential to contain a hazardous atmosphere. They contain a material that has the potential for engulfing an entrant. They have an external configuration such that the entrant could be trapped or asphyxiated by inwardly converging walls or by a floor which slopes downward and tapers to a smaller cross section, or contains any other recognized serious safety or health hazard. A non-permit required confined space does not contain or, with respect to atmospheric hazards, have the potential to contain any hazard capable of causing death or serious physical harm. Spill response and reporting. If you see a spill and the spill presents a danger or health risk, call 911 immediately. Check for injuries. If there are injuries and you're trained to do so, perform first aid. If there are no injuries, then evaluate the extent of the spill. For incidental spills, small spills of solvents or non-regulated material can be wiped up and the rags can be placed in the trash. For corrosives, they can be neutralized and washed down the drain, but all toxics, any waste needs to be saved and shipped out as hazardous waste. All other waste should be collected for proper disposal. Nothing but stormwater should enter the stormwater drainage system. Do not discharge anything to the storm drains except for rainfall runoff. Take immediate action to stop the source and contain the spill if all of the following are true. You know what material was spilled and the hazards of that material. The source of the spill can be stopped quickly and safely, and the spill is small. For non-standard spills, refer to the emergency call list. Notify SPCC coordinator immediately, which is Senior EHS Manager Joel Tickey. If the SPCC coordinator cannot be reached, refer to the emergency call list and keep calling until you have reached a person. Spill priorities. Number 1, do not ever put yourself in harm's way. If you can do so without putting yourself in harm's way, keep the spill in the building. If it happens to make it out of the building, do everything you can to keep it on the property. If required, EHS will notify regulatory agencies and will need the following information: the person who discovered the spill, the material spilled and the quantity, the source and location of the spill, the time of the spill, the response measures taken, any impacts to human health and the environment, and agencies informed and assistance requested. If a spill is observed, please notify EHS by calling the contacts on the emergency call list. Now let's discuss electrical safety. Electrical safety standards kick in for systems that carry more than 50 volts. 50 volts is the threshold at which there is enough electrical pressure to drive current into the body. Electrical current of more than 50 milliamps can be fatal. Average house current is 110 volts at 15 full amps. There are two hazards associated with electricity. Electrocution is when current passes through the body causing visible and invisible damage. And arc flash. Arc flash is a blast hotter than the sun that burns, breaks bones, deafens, blinds, and kills. Only qualified personnel may work on systems over 50 volts. Qualified personnel have documented training and experience in working with and avoiding the hazards of electrical systems of more than 50 volts. Only approved and trained personnel may engage in electrical work. Except for basic troubleshooting by qualified personnel, work on live circuits is absolutely prohibited at Kemin. Electrical equipment must always be de-energized and locked out before work begins. Distance is critical. Electricians will define arc flash boundaries and limited approach boundaries. Unqualified personnel cannot approach closer than these boundaries without being accompanied by a qualified electrician. Anyone working in these areas must be protected by appropriate electrical PPE, including garments made from natural fibers. Synthetic clothing is prohibited within boundaries. Steps that you can take: always use non-conductive, which would be fiberglass or wood, ladders. Daisy chaining of cords and power strips is prohibited. Do not connect multiple cords. Never use extension cords as permanent wiring or allow them to pass through walls. Never overload circuits. Never use damaged electrical gear or equipment with frayed, damaged, or exposed wires. And report any condition you believe to be unsafe to your supervisor. At this time, we will discuss non-production shipping. No chemical shall be shipped out without an accompanying SDS. If shipping a chemical that is listed as regulated in Section 14 of the SDS, you must have special hazardous material training to ship the material. This class is set up quarterly through EHS. If you have any questions about the course, please contact Joel Tickey, Rachel Keck, or Dan Jennings. Security. Be aware of people that tailgate into the parking lot, and if you do not recognize them, ask them where they are going and direct them to the front desk. If you do not know a person, do not allow them to follow you into the building. If you see someone in the building that should not be there, direct them to the front desk. Please report any broken gate or door to John Foltz or the EHS department. Lastly, we will discuss fire safety. Fires are divided up into classes. Class A fires would be general trash, such as wood, paper, and cloth. Class B fires would be liquids, such as gasoline, oil, and grease. And Class C fires would include all electrical fires. Most fire extinguishers here at Kemin will cover all Class A, Class B, and Class C fires. When responding to a fire, try to remember the acronym RACE. Rescue, remove everyone from harm in the immediate area. Alarm, alert everyone in the broader area so they can evacuate. Contain, have a clear exit route and don't let the fire get between you and the door. And then extinguish. Extinguish the fire if you are trained to do so. When extinguishing a fire, remember the acronym PASS. First, pull the pin. Second, aim low at the base of the flames. Third, squeeze the handle. And fourth, sweep from side to side. Now, we will discuss safety regarding COVID-19. What is COVID-19? COVID-19 is a highly contagious respiratory disease. It's typically spread during close contact and via respiratory droplets when affected people cough or sneeze. How to protect yourself? Wash your hands and wash them often. Use hand sanitizer if no sink is available, but know that soap and water are always the best method. Practice social distancing when in public. Always try to keep a 6-foot distance between yourself and others at all times. And finally, wear a mask when out in public. Kemin's response and policies to COVID-19. Our leadership has instituted a global cross-functional steering committee to make and execute decisions. We've limited gatherings of employees to 3 people or less. We've provided surgical masks to all employees to use daily. We require temperature monitoring once before starting work and once 4 hours into the workday. Anyone with a temperature over 100 degrees will be required to return home. Thank you for participating in the 2020 Kemin General Awareness Refresher. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to the Safety Department at any time. Thank you.